If everything around you suddenly went quiet, if people drifted, if nothing feels the same, don't panic. You weren't abandoned. You were hidden by Allah, because what He's building inside you is too sacred for the wrong eyes to witness. 1. Not everyone who disappears is lost. Maybe you don't even know when it started. The silence, the distance, the slow, unspoken shift that made everything feel a little less familiar, a little colder, a little more lonely. One by one, things began to fall away. People drifted, conversations shortened, messages were left unread, and the places that once felt like home started to feel like rooms you no longer belonged in. It didn't happen all at once. It was quiet, gradual, barely noticeable, until one night you looked around and realized you weren't where you used to be, and you weren't who you used to be either. You weren't running from anyone. You just stopped chasing what used to make you feel important. You stopped showing up for people who never saw the real you. You stopped explaining yourself to those who only wanted pieces of you, but never your heart. And when they asked, "Where have you been?" you smiled, nodded, maybe laughed a little. But inside, you had no answer. Because how do you explain a disappearance that didn't start in your feet, but in your soul? How do you tell someone that your absence isn't a cry for attention, but a quiet response to years of being misunderstood? That this silence you're sitting in wasn't something you planned, but something your soul needed before it completely collapsed. You didn't plan to pull away, but somewhere along the way, Allah gently began pulling you away from what drained you, away from what blurred your purpose, away from hands that only held you when you were useful. And you didn't fight it this time. You didn't beg to stay. You didn't plead to be seen. You just let go, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally realized you were pouring your light into cups that would never hold it. And in that letting go, in that quiet retreat, something began to happen. The noise faded, the pressure lifted, the masks fell off, and for the first time in a very long time, you were alone, but not empty, not lost, just still enough to hear your own thoughts again, still enough to feel your breath, still enough to remember what it feels like to just be. And that stillness, that silence, that divine quiet, it wasn't loneliness. It was a meeting, a reunion between you and your Rab. Because not everyone who disappears is lost. Some are hidden by Allah, not because they've failed, but because they are being reborn. You see, this world has a way of performing you to death. It convinces you that your worth is in your visibility, that you must always be doing, proving, producing, pleasing. But what if I told you your disappearance was Allah's way of reminding you that you're already enough, even when no one claps, even when no one watches? He hid you because He missed you. He missed the sound of your voice when no one else was listening. He missed the way your heart softened when you cried only for Him. He missed the purity of your soul when it wasn't trying to fit into what the world wanted. So He brought you back to silence, to stillness, to yourself. And in doing so, He protected the most sacred parts of you. Because the truth is, the version of you the world loved was sometimes the version that was hurting the most. The one who always said yes. The one who kept giving, even when they were empty. The one who stayed, even when they were being erased. So Allah pulled you out, before the world buried what He created to shine, before you lost yourself in people who only loved you in pieces, He took you out of the crowd to remind you, you are not a show, you are a soul. He silenced the applause so you could hear the whisper of who you really are. And maybe right now you feel invisible, unnoticed, forgotten. But wallahi, you are not forgotten. You are being held in the gentlest way. You are in a sacred cocoon where your spirit can finally rest, where your wounds can finally breathe, where your light can heal in private, away from the hands that never knew how to hold it. You didn't disappear. You were hidden, not because you are weak, but because you are rare. And what is rare must be protected. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are not too late. You are simply in the part of the story where Allah takes over and rewrites you in silence. And when He's done, when your heart is strong enough, when your voice is no longer trembling, when your hands stop reaching for what used to hurt you, He will bring you back, not as the person you were, but as the one you were always meant to be. And when that day comes, you will understand why the isolation had to happen, why the distance was mercy, why the silence was divine. You weren't abandoned. You weren't forgotten. You weren't being punished. You were hidden because what Allah placed inside you was too sacred to be wasted on the wrong eyes. 2. Divine silence is a sign of sacred growth. You keep asking why Allah is so quiet lately, why the answers haven't come, why the heart still feels heavy, even after all the du'as, even after all the tears. You kneel in sujood, whispering into the night, but the silence feels louder than your voice. You keep waiting for a sign, a shift, a reply. And every time you wake up to the same pain, the same confusion, the same delay, you wonder, is Allah listening to me at all? But my dear soul, don't mistake silence for absence. Don't confuse delay with distance. And don't let the quiet convince you that you are unloved. Because what if I told you, this silence you're drowning in is actually one of the most sacred phases of your life? What if I told you, Allah is not ignoring you. He's growing you, not in public, not in ways the world can see, but deep, quiet, invisible growth, the kind that transforms you forever, just like the seed, buried deep in the soil, hidden from sight, silent to the world. No one claps for it, no one notices it, but under the surface, it is breaking open, it is changing shape, it is growing into something that will one day rise. That's what's happening inside you. You don't see the change yet. You don't feel the shift yet. But beneath the stillness, Allah is working. He is softening your heart where it has hardened. He is removing the lies you believed about yourself. He is teaching your soul how to breathe again, without needing approval, without needing control, without needing answers right away. This kind of growth is slow, sacred, painful, but permanent, because the growth that lasts the longest is the one that happens in silence. It's easy to believe Allah loves you when your du'as are answered fast, when the blessings come openly, when everything feels clear. But true faith is built in the moments when nothing makes sense, and you choose to trust anyway. When your du'as echo back to you, and you still say, Alhamdulillah, when your soul aches for comfort, but your tongue still says, Ya Allah, I believe you haven't left me. That is sacred. That's not weakness. That's not punishment. That's transformation. You're not being left behind. You're being slowed down. Because what Allah is building in you can't be rushed. You wanted to be guided. But real guidance doesn't always feel like light. Sometimes it feels like wandering. Sometimes it feels like breaking. Sometimes it feels like standing still, with a heart full of questions and no answers in sight. But even then, especially then, Allah is closer than ever. He says in the Quran, "I am near, not just when you're strong, not just when you're grateful, but also when you're tired, confused, and lost." Because even the prophets went through silence. Prophet Yusuf, alayhi salam, sat in a prison cell, wrongfully accused, with no rescue in sight. But Allah was with him. Prophet Yunus, alayhi salam, was in the belly of the whale, in complete darkness. No people, no sky, no movement, just isolation and a heart beating with regret. But even there, in the depths of the ocean, Allah heard him, and you think He doesn't hear you. The silence you're experiencing now is not a wall between you and Allah. It's a womb, a place where your soul is being remade, where your ego is being softened, where your dependence is shifting from the world to the one who controls it all. He is detaching you from everything temporary, so He can attach you to what is eternal. He is closing the doors you begged to stay open, so He can show you a path you never even knew existed. And yes, it hurts, because growing in silence means grieving your old self, letting go of the plans you thought were perfect, surrendering your timeline, trusting His. But what you don't realize is that the version of you Allah is creating is someone who will walk through storms and still carry peace inside their chest. Someone who will no longer fear being alone because they've met Allah in the silence. Someone who doesn't beg for love because they know they are already deeply loved by the most merciful. So if you're wondering why He's quiet, remember this: Allah speaks loudest. In the places where the world goes silent, He rewrites you. In the stillness you used to run from, He reveals your worth. In the seasons where no one is clapping for you, because you were never meant to live for the noise of this world. You were meant to be guided by the one who speaks in whispers only your soul can hear. So breathe. Trust the quiet. Don't run from the silence. It's where your next chapter is being written. And one day, when the silence breaks, you'll look back and realize that everything you were waiting for was actually waiting for you to become the person who could carry it. You are not stuck. You are not forgotten. You are not being ignored. You are being rebuilt in silence. Because what Allah has planned for you is too beautiful to be born in noise. 3. What Allah hid, the world would have mishandled. You tried to be everything for everyone. You were the one who always showed up, even when no one showed up for you. The one who smiled through exhaustion, who answered every call, carried every burden, held every secret. And they loved that about you until they didn't. Because the world doesn't know how to hold what it doesn't understand. And you? You were too deep for the shallow, too soft for the hardened, too sincere for a world addicted to surface. So slowly, painfully, Allah began pulling you back. At first, it felt like loss. It always does. The invitations stopped. The conversations dried up. You started feeling like a stranger in rooms you once called home. And you asked yourself, what did I do wrong? But my dear soul, you didn't do anything wrong. You just became too right for places that were never meant to protect you. Allah saw how the world was handling you, how it was draining you, using you, dismissing your softness as weakness. He saw how people clapped for your light, but never cared about the fire it took to keep glowing. He saw how they loved the idea of you, but never stayed long enough to know the reality of your wounds. So he hid you, not to punish you, but to preserve you. Because what he placed inside your heart was never meant for careless hands, never meant for shallow love, never meant for loud stages and fleeting praise. You were giving your sacred parts to people who didn't even know what sacred meant. So he took you away. He made you invisible in their eyes, so you could become visible again to your own soul. He allowed them to forget your name, so you would remember his. Because had he left you in those places, you would have kept shrinking, kept smiling through disrespect, kept pouring into cups that only cracked you wider. And Allah loves you too much to let that happen. So he pulled you back, slowly, softly, like a mother pulling her child away from a fire. It hurt, but it saved you. Because if he hadn't hidden you, the world would have broken what he was still building. Your kindness would have become bitterness. Your softness would have turned to numbness. Your giving would have dried up into resentment. So he protected your light by keeping it away from the eyes that only wanted to use it, not honor it. You see, not every open door is a blessing, and not every person who wants access has the heart to keep what they're reaching for. Allah knew who would misunderstand your heart, who would laugh at your dreams, who would whisper your secrets in places your dignity didn't belong. And he said, "Not my servant, not this soul." So he closed the door before it could close on you. He ended the friendship before it could break you deeper. He blocked the path before it took you somewhere your soul didn't belong. And yes, it felt like rejection. It felt like silence. It felt like loss. But really, it was divine mercy dressed in quiet pain. Because what if you knew the very person you cried over was making dua against you behind your back? What if you knew the space you were begging to stay in was about to crush your spirit for the last time? Would you still question why Allah removed you? He didn't hide you to harm you. He hid you because he saw what you couldn't, and protected what you didn't know was sacred. Your sincerity, your gentleness, your ability to love so deeply. These are treasures in Allah's eyes, and treasures are never left out in the open. They are guarded, preserved, hidden until the right soul arrives. So, if he's hidden you, I know it's because you are not common. You are not for display. You are not for everyone's eyes and hands and opinions. You are for him, and the few who will reflect his mercy back to you. And when the time is right, he will bring people into your life who won't mishandle what he protected, people who will see your depth and not drown, who will feel your softness and not crush it, who will meet your vulnerability and not betray it. But until then, let him keep you hidden. Let him continue to cover you in divine light, while the world forgets your name, because there is something beautiful happening. In the places no one else sees, your heart is healing, your worth is realigning, and your soul is learning to be loved, without needing to be seen. One day, when Allah reveals you again, when he brings you back into the light, you'll look back at this season and say, Alhamdulillah for every person who forgot me, every place that rejected me, every silence that protected me, because now I see why I had to be hidden. What Allah hid, was what the world would have destroyed. And now that he's preserved it, no one can ever touch it again, unless he says, "This one is ready," and you will walk forward, not needing applause, because you will know you are already seen by the one who never needed noise to notice you. 4. Even prophets were hidden before they rose. Before they changed the world, even the prophets were hidden. Before they spoke to nations, they sat in silence. Before they were followed, they were isolated. Before their names were remembered for eternity, they were completely unseen by the world. You feel alone right now, forgotten, misunderstood, delayed. But you are not the first, because long before anyone knew their names, the ones most beloved by Allah were placed into divine hiding. Think of Prophet Musa, alayhi salam, a child born under the threat of execution, hunted before he even took his first breath, torn from his mother's arms, placed in a basket, set afloat on the Nile, hidden from the eyes of a tyrant. To the world, it looked like abandonment, a baby drifting in a river without protection. But to Allah, it was the beginning of divine preservation, because that basket didn't just float, it was guided straight into the palace of Pharaoh, where the very man trying to kill him would raise him under his own roof, hidden, safe, guarded by divine wisdom. Or think of Prophet Yunus, alayhi salam. He was loved by his people once, but when they turned away from his message, his heart broke, and in pain he left. And where did Allah place him? Not in a palace, not in a city, but in a belly of a whale. Complete darkness, complete isolation, nothing around him, just the crushing silence of the ocean. To the world, it looked like failure. To the human heart, it looked like punishment. But in that belly, his soul rose to a place no one could reach, because it was there, in the deepest point of isolation, that his most powerful dua was born. La ilaha illa anta, subhanaka inni kuntu minaz zalimin. There is no God but you. Glory be to you. Indeed, I was of the wrongdoers. And in that moment, Allah didn't just forgive him, He elevated him. Because sometimes you have to be swallowed by silence to finally find your voice again. And what about Prophet Yusuf, alayhi salam? He had dreams of greatness, visions of leadership, a soul destined for influence. But before he was honored, he was betrayed, thrown into a well by his own brothers, sold as a slave, wrongfully accused, imprisoned, forgotten by those he helped, left in a prison cell with no end in sight. To anyone else, it looked like tragedy. But to Allah, it was the preparation of a king. Because in that prison, Yusuf, alayhi salam, was not being punished. He was being refined, built in private, so when the time came, he would rise with the kind of wisdom that only silence and heartbreak could teach. And then there's Prophet Muhammad, alayhi salam, the most beloved to Allah. Before the Quran touched his heart, before the world followed his footsteps, before his name echoed across time and space, he was alone, in the cave of Hira, high above the noise, far from the people, wrapped in silence. He would sit for hours, sometimes days, with no one but his thoughts, his tears, his yearning for something more. And it was in that cave, in that hidden place, that the first words of revelation came. Iqra, read, not in a crowded marketplace, not on a throne, but in sacred isolation, away from the eyes of the world. because that is how Allah prepares those He loves most. He doesn't launch them into spotlight. He doesn't rush their rise. He pulls them away. He hides them. He strips them of everything. So when they do rise, they carry only Him in their hearts. So if you feel isolated right now, if your life feels like a closed cave, a dark well, a belly of a whale, you are not lost. You are being preserved. You are not being punished. You are being purified. You are not falling behind. You are being placed in the same divine pattern as every soul Allah has ever loved. Because the greater the mission, the deeper the preparation, and the deeper the preparation, the longer the hiding. You are walking a path that was walked by kings, prophets, and the most honored servants of Allah. And just like them, you will not rise until it is time, because when you do, you won't rise with arrogance. You'll rise with humility. You won't speak with noise. You'll speak with wisdom. You won't chase attention. You'll carry light. And that light will not come from people. It will come from what Allah poured into your soul in the very seasons you thought He forgot you. So don't hate the cave. Don't rush the process. Don't curse the silence. Because Allah only hides what He intends to honor. And when He brings you out of this, you will not just be seen, you will be known. Not for who the world expected you to be, but for who Allah always saw in you. And that version of you, the one born in silence, shaped by heartbreak and polished by isolation, will carry something that cannot be copied, cannot be explained, and cannot be denied, because it was built not by this world, but by Allah. 5. The world didn't deserve to watch you bloom. You always gave your best. You showed up with soft eyes and open hands, thinking the world would hold you with the same gentleness you carried. You smiled even when your heart was tired, thinking sincerity would protect you. You bloomed in places you should have never planted yourself, hoping love would grow from broken soil. But instead of being nurtured, you were watched, picked apart, expected to give and give and give. And when you finally broke, they turned their eyes away. The truth is, they didn't want you to bloom. They wanted you to perform, to stay beautiful, but not messy, to be soft, but not sensitive, to be kind, but not with boundaries. And every time you tried to rise for yourself, they called it selfishness. So Allah, in His mercy, pulled you away. Not because your bloom wasn't beautiful, but because it was too beautiful for the eyes that only knew how to consume it. He watched how you kept offering petals to people who never planted anything in return. He saw the way you opened yourself to hands that only took, never gave, never stayed. And so, He began the gentle process of hiding you. He made you unseen, unreachable, unexplained. Not because you didn't deserve to be known, but because the world didn't deserve to know you yet. You see, not every garden is meant to be walked through. Some are meant to be fenced, protected, sacred. And you are one of those gardens, because what Allah planted inside you was not for public display. It was for something higher, deeper, rarer. The bloom He designed within your soul was never meant to be plucked by hands that didn't know how to hold softness with care. You were giving yourself to people who praised your beauty, but never stayed to understand your roots, who complimented your light, but never asked about the fire it took to get there. And if Allah hadn't stepped in, You would have kept blooming for eyes that only wanted the show, not the truth. So he pulled you back. He allowed them to walk away. He made space between you and the world, so you could finally bloom without needing to be seen, because the most beautiful blooms happen when no one is watching. The petals stretch slower, the colors are richer, the scent is stronger, because there's no pressure to perform, only space to become. That's what Allah gave you. Space. Sacred space. So your soul could rise quietly, without interruption. Because if the world had watched you while you bloomed, they would have rushed you, compared you, judged your softness as weakness, labeled your healing as strange. They would have mocked your quiet growth, pressed you to speak before you were ready, demanded answers from a heart still learning how to beat again. So Allah said, "No." He said, "Not this one, not my servant, not this sacred soul." And He placed divine curtains around you. Curtains no one could pull back, no matter how loud they called your name, no matter how much they claimed they cared. Because what was happening inside you wasn't meant to be understood by the world. It was a private meeting between your wounds and His mercy, between your doubts and His light, between your shattered self and the version of you He was quietly rebuilding. And when you cried out in frustration, asking why no one sees you anymore, Allah was already seeing everything. Every tear, every step, every silent prayer whispered into your pillow at 2 a.m. He was there. He was watching, but not as a critic, as a gardener, the one who knew when to water, when to prune, when to let you stand in the dark until your soul stopped needing the sun to feel warm, because the most radiant blooms don't just grow toward light. They grow from pressure, from silence, from being unseen for a long, long time. And that's what you've been doing. While everyone else was running ahead, you were standing still, stretching roots into places no one could see. You were growing stronger, quieter, wiser. You were learning how to carry beauty that didn't need applause to feel real. You stopped needing the world to clap, because Allah was already writing your name on scrolls that never fade. And when He brings you back, and He will bring you back, it won't be with noise. It'll be with presence, a silent power, a calm strength, a glow that people can't explain, because they never saw where it came from. They never saw the nights you wept in sujood. They never saw the days you kept breathing through heartbreak. They never saw the strength it took to rise again and again with no one watching. So when they finally see you, they won't understand. But you will. You'll know that your bloom was never delayed. It was simply protected, because Allah doesn't waste His creations. He doesn't let His servants rise for claps. He lets them rise for truth. And now you're ready to be that truth. Not because the world is watching, but because your soul finally knows that even in silence, even in the shadows, even when no one is clapping, you were already shining. 6. No one can take credit for what Allah concealed. No one saw the nights you begged Allah to just hold you together. No one heard the trembling of your voice in sujood, when you whispered prayers that didn't even have words, only tears. No one felt the way your chest tightened, when you had to pretend everything was fine, when it wasn't. And yet, you kept going, not because you were strong, but because Allah kept catching you every single time you were about to fall. So many people think they know your story, but they only know the parts you let them see. They never saw the war inside your mind, They never felt the ache in your soul. They never stood in front of the mirror and wondered if the version of you that existed was still worth loving. They only saw the surface, the smile, the replies, the quiet presence in the room. But what they never saw was the version of you Allah concealed. The broken one, the doubtful one, the one who almost gave up more than once. The world never saw it because Allah hid it. He covered you in silence. He wrapped you in invisibility, not because you were weak, but because your rebuilding process was not for public consumption. You see, when Allah rewrites a soul, He doesn't do it on a stage. He does it in the shadows, in the quiet corners of heartbreak, in the lonely places where no one claps for your progress. And because He hid you there, no one gets to take credit for who you're becoming. Not the people who walked away, not the ones who doubted you, not the ones who clapped for your downfall, and now act like they always believed in you. They don't get to say, "I helped build that," because they didn't see the nights you wiped your own tears, the days you dragged your soul out of despair and still said, "Alhamdulillah." They didn't see how your chest burned when you recited Quran, not just as words, but as medicine. They didn't see the way you turned to Allah when every door slammed shut, when every friendship faded, when even your own reflection looked like a stranger. Only Allah saw that. Only Allah was there when you felt completely invisible, but chose to believe you were still seen. So now, when your healing starts to show, when your strength starts to shine, when your voice returns and your confidence begins to glow again, they might come back. They might smile and say, "You've changed. You're glowing. You're rising." But they won't understand the price you paid to get here. They won't know that their distance didn't break you. It freed you. That their silence didn't destroy you. It led you back to the one who never left. And most of all, they won't be able to say, "We made you," because you weren't made in their hands. You were made in the hands of Allah, piece by piece, dua by dua, tear by tear. He shaped the new version of you in rooms no one else entered, in conversations that happened between your trembling heart and His infinite mercy. So let them wonder, let them guess, let them try to figure out how you're still standing. You don't owe anyone an explanation for the strength Allah gave you in private, because when He hides you during your becoming, He does it with hikmah, divine wisdom. He knows if the world saw you mid-process, they would have labeled you too soon. They would have doubted the work He was doing. They would have tried to interrupt it with advice, pressure, noise, but Allah kept them out. So when you rise, they won't be able to say, "Look what we helped do," because they weren't there. Only Allah was. And now that you're rising, it won't be for them. It won't be to prove anything. It won't be for attention. It will be for Him and you, and the quiet promise you made in sujood, that if He healed you, you'd never run back to the people who broke you. And you haven't. You stayed with Him. Even when your heart screamed for help from others, you chose to call on Him first. And now He's answering in ways they can't explain. You're glowing again, but not because of them. You're blooming again, but this time for real. Because now it's not about proving your worth. It's about knowing your worth through the eyes of the one who created you. And no one can take credit for that. Not family, not friends, not exes, not mentors, Not strangers who disappeared when you needed them most. No one gets to say, "I built this." Only Allah does. So walk in that truth, softly, boldly, gratefully. And when they ask how you did it, just smile and say, "Allah concealed me, so no one else could claim me. He hid me when I was breaking, so that when I finally stood again, it would be clear to everyone. This glow is not man-made. This healing is not from this world. This was all Him." 7. You were hidden so you could heal. You kept showing up for the world. Long after your soul stopped showing up for you, you kept smiling, kept answering, kept holding space for everyone else's pain. Even when yours had no room to breathe, you were everyone's support, everyone's listener, everyone's safe space. But deep down, you were bleeding, and no one knew. You cried in the shower so no one could hear. You laughed at jokes while holding a storm inside your chest. You said, "I'm okay," so many times. You forgot what it even felt like to tell the truth. And you told yourself, "This is what strong people do. This is how I'm supposed to heal, quietly, gracefully, invisibly." But my dear heart, you were never meant to heal in the middle of what hurt you. You were never meant to keep growing in soil that kept poisoning your roots. So Allah, in His endless mercy, hid you, not to punish you, not to shame you, not to isolate you, but to save you. He took you away from the places you kept trying to be okay in, the people you kept trying to shrink for, the cycles you kept calling normal, even when they were killing your spirit. He saw the exhaustion behind your eyes, the emotional limping you masked as strength, the way you kept carrying everyone, but never felt carried yourself. And He said, "No more." He gently placed a divine curtain around you, one that made the phone stop ringing, the invitations stop coming, the conversations turn cold. And yes, at first it felt like rejection. It always does. When the world goes quiet, we mistake it for abandonment. But what if I told you it was a healing room? What if I told you Allah silenced the noise because your soul was screaming beneath it? You see, healing doesn't happen in chaos. It doesn't happen when you're constantly performing, constantly giving, constantly pleasing. Healing happens in stillness, in quiet, in places where no one is pulling from you. And that's exactly where He took you. Away from the pressure to be okay. Away from the people who never saw how much it cost you to stay. Away from the roles you kept playing just to feel valuable. Because Allah already knew your value. Even when you didn't, He saw the child inside you, still waiting for someone to choose them, still hoping the pain would finally make sense, still craving the softness you kept offering others, but never received. So He said, "Come back to me. Let me be your soft place. Let me be your mirror. Let me be your rest." And in hiding you, He began to heal you, not in ways the world applauds, but in ways your soul will never forget. He taught you how to sit with your sadness without running from it, how to feel your grief without drowning in it, how to carry your story without being defined by the chapters that broke you. He held you in moments you forgot how to hold yourself. And slowly, quietly, you began to rise. Not the way you used to, not out of obligation, not to impress, not to prove. You began to rise for you, for your peace, for your truth, for your connection to Him. And you didn't even notice at first, because healing isn't loud, it's subtle. It's sacred. It's slow. It's choosing to forgive when your heart still trembles. It's choosing to pray even when your voice shakes. It's choosing to walk forward, even when you're still limping inside. But step by step, you began to feel again. You began to hope again. You began to believe again. That maybe you weren't too broken. Maybe you weren't forgotten. Maybe this hiding wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The place where Allah did surgery on your soul that no one could see, where He removed what you were never meant to carry, where He whispered things into your heart that no human language could have reached. And now, even if you still feel hidden, know this: you are healing, not all at once, not without pain, but for real. And the parts of you that once crumbled will soon become the strongest foundations you stand on. Because when Allah heals you, He doesn't just patch you up, He makes you new. So don't rush this process. Don't wish it away. Don't try to return to what broke you just because you're lonely. Loneliness is not your enemy. It is your cocoon, the sacred place where your new self is being shaped, where your tears are being collected, where your story is being rewritten by the one who saw every moment you felt invisible. Let it happen. Let the healing reach the parts you've been hiding, even from yourself. Let the silence cleanse the noise. Let the distance soften the wounds. Let the hiding become holy. Because one day, when Allah reveals you again, you won't just be better. You'll be reborn. You won't need anyone to clap. You'll carry your own light. You won't need to explain. Your peace will speak for itself. And when they ask, "Where have you been?" just smile gently and remember the sacred truth: I was hidden, so I could finally heal. 8. What's born in the darkness shines without needing light. You keep wondering why life feels so dark right now, why your soul feels like it's walking through a tunnel with no end, why the light you used to feel in your chest is dim, why every step feels heavy, every smile feels borrowed, and every hope feels like it's flickering too fast to hold on to. You miss how things used to feel. You miss the ease, the clarity, the way your heart used to light up effortlessly. And now, it's just quiet. Too quiet. But what if I told you, this darkness you're standing in is not punishment, it's preparation? What if I told you, this silence, this stillness, this invisible season of your life is where the most powerful version of you is being born? You see, we live in a world that worships the spotlight. That tells you your worth is measured by how seen you are, how fast you move, how bright you shine. But Allah works differently. He grows souls in the dark, just like He grows seeds underground, just like He shaped you in the hidden silence of your mother's womb, just like He sent revelation into a cave before it ever reached the world. He doesn't rush your light. He doesn't parade your process. He guards it, wraps it in stillness, and lets it bloom where no one can interfere. Because what's born in the darkness will one day shine, without ever needing the sun. It will glow from within, because the light came from Allah. Not attention, not approval, not applause. You feel like you're stuck, but really, you're becoming. You're not behind. You're beneath, like a seed buried in the soil. And yes, it's lonely there. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it feels like nothing is moving. But something is moving. Something is shifting deep inside you. And just like a seed must break before it grows, you too are breaking open to make space for what's next. This darkness you're in, it's not empty. It's full of angels, full of mercy, full of the quiet kind of love that says, you don't need to be seen right now. You just need to be held. And that's what Allah is doing. He is holding you in a way no one else could. Silently, completely, perfectly, because He knows how to heal what even you can't name. He knows what the world never saw, the tears you never cried aloud, the fears you never voiced, the grief you never let breathe. And He is addressing it now, not with force, but with divine silence. He's removing the lies, the weight, the masks. He's rewiring you, not to become someone else, but to become who you were before the world told you to be everything but yourself. That's what the darkness is doing. It's not erasing you. It's unveiling you, the real you, the one who doesn't perform for love, the one who doesn't chase validation, the one who doesn't shine for others, but carries a light that leads them without even trying. That's what's being built. A presence, not for attention, but for purpose. And yes, you will rise. But when you do, you won't need anyone to say, look how far you've come, because you will know. You'll know what it cost. You'll know what was buried. You'll know what had to break, what had to be left behind, what had to be surrendered in the silence. And that kind of knowing, it creates a light that nothing can touch, because it's not on your skin, it's in your soul. That's why Allah kept you hidden, because if the world had seen you too soon, they would have dimmed you with doubt, pressed you to explain what you couldn't yet describe, pulled you out of the soil before your roots were ready. But Allah, He said, wait. He said, not yet, because He knew the light you're about to carry was too precious to share with anyone who wouldn't protect it. So if it still feels dark, stay there. Let the soil do its work. Let the silence stretch you. Let the solitude purify what the noise kept distorting. And when it's time, you won't even need to announce yourself. Your healing will be seen in your calm. Your faith will be heard in your silence. And your light will speak louder than anything you've ever said. Because it won't come from you. It will come from Him. And no one will be able to explain it. They'll say, there's something different about you. There's something glowing in your presence. And they won't realize that glow was born when you thought you were disappearing. It was built in nights no one knew you were crying, in du'as no one heard, in sujood that felt unanswered, but were being written into your soul in ways you didn't yet understand. So don't curse the darkness. Don't beg for shortcuts. Don't wish for exposure. Just trust the one who has always seen your light, even when you didn't. Because what's born in the darkness doesn't need the world's light to shine. It only needs Allah. And when He says it's time, no one will be able to deny what He placed inside you. You weren't abandoned. You were hidden. Because what Allah placed inside you was never meant to be rushed, never meant to be explained, and never meant to bloom in front of eyes that would have broken it. So if life feels quiet right now, if no one sees you, if even your own heart feels unfamiliar, breathe. You're not falling apart. You're being rewritten by the one who saw you before the world ever knew your name. And when the time is right, you won't rise to prove them wrong. You'll rise because your soul is finally strong. So, sleep in peace tonight. You're not late. You're not lost. You're not forgotten. You're in the safest place you could ever be, hidden by Allah.